Alrighty, guys, we're now 4-0 in our last 4 board member tier package plays on my website. And not only do board members get access to the board member tier package play itself, they also get access to every single one of my personal plays, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day. But before we talk a little bit more about that, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to our NBA video here today for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. My name is Brock Page. I've been doing sports picks on YouTube since 2016. I also sell my personal plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. And once again, guys, we are 4-0 in our last 4 board member tier package bets on that website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on my website is I actually share with you which one of these free picks on my videos that I'm actually betting on personally. I currently have over 525 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Hornets at the Wizards, 7 o'clock East. Washington's -5, totals 236.5. But as bad as Charlotte's been, they could potentially cover here. They're in the top 5 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring on the road, so that back door is always open. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, not many teams do it better on the offensive end of the court than Charlotte. These guys are one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the East. Mason Plumlee, he averages just about double-digit rebounds a night. He's also scoring a dozen points a game offensively. Meanwhile, LaMelo Ball, he's scoring over 23 points per contest himself. Now, they're facing a Washington team who lost their last 3 straight, and they may go to work without Bradley Beal. The top scorer is questionable with a foot injury, but even when these guys are mostly healthy, the Wizards really don't score a whole lot of points in the Capital One Arena. Washington's currently in the bottom 10 in the league in home scoring. Now, injury-wise, once again, Bradley Beal's questionable. Kyle Kuzma's day-to-day. Meanwhile, for Charlotte, Cody Martin's out for them. When it comes to the total, Charlotte's 61% to the over in their road contests. Meanwhile, Washington's gone 15-9 to the over in the nation's capital. I'm going to lean toward Charlotte +5 over 236.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Pistons at the Cavaliers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Cleveland's -13, totals 223. Now, the Cavs have been pretty dominant at home. They're 22-6 in the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and they covered in nearly 70% of those contests. When it comes to defensive play, no one gives up fewer points per contest than the Cavs. Evan Mobley averages 6.5 defensive boards a game. He's also third on the team in points. And speaking of scoring, Donovan Mitchell averages a team-high 26 points a night. They're facing a Pistons team who has the worst record in the Eastern Conference. When it comes to defensive play, the Pistons allow more points a game than any other team in the league except for one. Now, injury-wise, Bagley's still out for drawing a blank. Detroit. Bagley's still out for Detroit. Windler still inactive for Cleveland. When it comes to the total, 7 out of Cleveland's last 10 fell under. Meanwhile, Detroit went 80% to the under in their last 10. Give me Cleveland -13, under 223 in the tight window. Next matchup, it is going to be Pacers Heat, 7:30 East. Miami 6.5, totals 223 and a hook. And as shaky as Miami's been, they do play consistently well at home. They're 17-9 in South Beach, and they play some really good defense there. The Heat's currently in the top 3 in the NBA in fewest points allowed per game at home. Jimmy Butler's grabbing nearly 3 steals a game, and he also leads the team in scoring. Now, teammate Bam Adebayo, he averages 21.5 points a night himself, along with double-digit boards. Now, they're facing an Indy team who's one of the worst rebounding teams in the East. These guys are currently in the bottom 5 in defensive boards. And in their last 10 outings, the Pacers got the W only 2 times. They give up nearly 120 points a night in their travels. Now, injury-wise, Chris Duarte is still day-to-day with that ankle. Meanwhile, for the Heat, Oladipo and Lowry are still out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Miami went 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, Indiana saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Miami minus 6.5, under 223 and a hook. Next game, Sixers, Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Boston's minus 4, totals 224.5. Now, the Celtics have been pretty good at the Garden. They're 20-7 in Beantown, and they're averaging nearly 122 points a game there. Jason Tatum averages a team-high 30 points a night, along with 8 rebounds. Meanwhile, Malcolm Brogdon's drilling 45% of his attempts from beyond the arc. When it comes to defensive play, the Celtics are giving up fewer points per contest than most clubs in the East. Now, they're facing a Philly team who has all kinds of problems rebounding the basketball offensively. These guys are in the bottom 3 in the NBA in offensive boards. They're also in the bottom 5 in the league in third quarter scoring on the road. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Joel Embiid is questionable for Philly. When it comes to the total, the Sixers did see 3 out of their last 4 stay under the number. They also averaged just 105 points a night in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Boston. So if you're into historical trends, something to think about there. Now the Celtics on the other side, they went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. Give me Boston minus 4, under 224.5. Next contest, it is going to be Spurs at the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's minus 10.5, totals 233 and a hook. And even though the Raptors really haven't been crisp, they do a pretty nice job on defense. They're actually in the top 10 in defensive boards. They're also giving up fewer points a game than most clubs in the Eastern Conference. Scotty Barnes grabs just about 5 defensive boards a game. He's also averaging over 15.5 points a night. Meanwhile, Pascal Siakam leads the team in points with 24 a game. Now they're taking on a Spurs team who lost their last 9 straight, and they failed to cover in all of those contests except for one. And no real surprise here, guys. The Spurs have the second worst record in the entire Western Conference. They're currently dead last in the entire league in points allowed per game. Now, injury-wise, Langford and Vassal's out. Johnson, Jones, and Sochan are questionable. Meanwhile, for Toronto, OG Anunoby's still inactive for them. When it comes to the total, Toronto went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. They're also 14-7 to the over against Western Conference opponents. Meanwhile, San Antonio, they've gone 67% to the over in their travels. I'm going to lean toward Toronto minus 10.5, over 233 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Kings Rockets, 8 o'clock East. Sacramento's minus 8, totals 239. Now, the Kings are still averaging more points a game than any other team in the NBA. They're also knocking down nearly 50% of their field goal attempts. Domantas Sabonis, he makes 61% of his field goals. He's also averaging over a dozen rebounds a night. When it comes to scoring, De'Aaron Fox leads the charge with 24 points a game. Now, they're facing a Rockets team on the other side who's currently on a 3-game skid, and they have the worst record in the entire NBA. And no real surprise here, guys. This is the worst field goal shooting team in the association. Now, injury-wise, Garrison Matthews is questionable. Kevin Porter won't dress. When it comes to the scoring, Houston saw their last 3 straight get over the total. They're giving up 123 points a game in their last 10 meetings with Sacramento. So once again, if you're into historical trends, something to think about there. Now, the Kings on the other side, 7 out of those 10 head-to-head meetings I just mentioned did get over the total. So plenty of overs to go around. I'm going to lean towards Sacramento minus 8, over 239. Next contest, Timberwolves Jazz, 9 o'clock East. Utah's minus 5, totals 236. Now, the Jazz have had little issue getting on the scoreboard in Salt Lake. They're averaging nearly 120 points a game in their own building. They're also one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the West. Lauri Markkanen snags over 8.5 rebounds a night. He's also the team's leading scorer with 24 points a game. Now, Markkanen's also been a legit deep ball threat this year. He's making 42% of his 3 balls. Now, Jordan Clarkson, he's scoring 21 points a game himself. They're facing a Minnesota team who's just 9-16 on the road this season. When it comes to rebounds, these guys are one of the worst in the West. They're grabbing fewer defensive boards than most clubs in their conference. Now, they also find themselves in the bottom 5 in the entire NBA in offensive rebounds per game as well. When it comes to the injury report, Anderson's questionable. Towns and Rivers are still out. Meanwhile, for Utah on the other side, Jared Vanderbilt's questionable with back problems. When it comes to the total, Utah saw overs with Dallas, Toronto, and Portland. They also averaged 117 points a game in their last 10 contests against Minnesota. And speaking of the T-Wolves, they saw their last 3 straight get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Utah -5 over 236. Next contest, it is going to be Mavericks Clippers, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The LA Clippers are -8 at home, totals 223. Now, the Clippers are holding their opponents to a league-low 105 points a game at home. And no real shock here, guys. LA is in the top 3 in guarding the three-pointer on their own court. Paul George averages nearly 6 defensive boards a game. He's also the team's leading scorer with 23.5 points a night. Now, Kawhi Leonard's also scoring 22 points a game himself. These guys are facing a Dallas team on the other side who actually plays their worst basketball on the road. Out of 27 road games this year, the Mavs got the W just 10 times. Now, Dallas is also dead last in the NBA in offensive rebounds. When it comes to the total, the Clippers saw unders recently with the likes of Milwaukee, Chicago, and this very Dallas team. As a matter of fact, the Clippers held Dallas to just 102 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings. And I'll tell you this much, when the Clippers play at home, we have seen a ton of unders as well. These guys are 20-5 to the under in their own arena, and that's good for 80% in that category. Now, the Mavs on the other side, they went 6-3 to the under in their last 9, unders against the likes of the Pelicans, Pistons, and the Suns. And in these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings, the under cashed in 70% of those matchups. Now, injury-wise, Ntilikina's questionable for Dallas. Kleba and Doncic are still out. I'm going to lean toward the Clippers -8, under 223. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Warriors at the Blazers, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Portland's -2, totals 236. Now, Portland's doing a good job of shooting the basketball at home. They're averaging nearly 120 points a night in the Moda Center. They're also making just about 50% of their field goals there. Dame Lillard, he leads the squad with 30 points a night, along with 7 assists. Meanwhile, Jeremy Grant knocks down nearly 41% of his shots from downtown. They're facing a Golden State team who still goes to work without Steph Curry. And out of 27 road games this year, the Warriors got the W only 7 times. They actually give up 123 points a game in their travels. Now, injury-wise, once again, Curry's still out. Iguodala also won't dress as well. Meanwhile, for Portland on the other side, Johnson and Badji are questionable. Nurkic and Winslow are still inactive. Now, total-wise, the Blazers have gone 63% to the over in the Moda Center. Meanwhile, Golden State's a staggering 21-6 to the over in their travels. I'm going to lean toward Portland -2 over 236. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into our quick pick recap. I like the Charlotte Hornets +5 over 236.5. Cleveland Cavaliers -13 under 223. Miami Heat -6.5 under 223.5. Boston Celtics -4 under 224 and a hook. Toronto -10.5 over 233.5. Sacramento Kings -8 over 239. Utah Jazz -5 over 236. LA Clippers -8 under 223. With my next and final free pick, give me Portland -2 over 236. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We are currently 4-0 in our last 4 board member tier package plays on that website. And not only do board members get access to the board member tier package play itself, they also get access to every single one of my personal plays, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube or TikTok. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.